Hi, I'm Mark Sarazano, registered piano technician from howtotunepianos.com. I've been tuning pianos for a while and teaching piano tuning for a while. And in that time, I've asked myself, what is the hardest thing about learning how to tune pianos? And I've come to the conclusion that it's really only two skills. One, hearing the beats, and two, stability. Now, when we tune the piano, we tune the intervals slightly out of tune so that we can play in all 12 keys. That's called equal temperament. And in order to set those intervals so that they're slightly out of tune, we have to hear the beats, and that can take some time to learn. Secondly, once we tune the note to where we think it sounds the best, or even if we're using an electronic tuning device and the device is telling us where to put the note, if we don't tune it with good stability, as soon as you play it loud, it goes out of tune. So those two skills. And keep watching the video. I'm going to show you how I teach people to acquire these skills. Being able to hear the beats, number one, and number two, being able to tune with good stability so that the string doesn't go out of tune. Okay, so first of all, trying to hear the beats. The first thing we have to do is know where the beat is occurring when we play an interval, and second, know what it sounds like. So I have a few different techniques that I use to teach people how to do this, but I'm just going to show you this one. I use this software. It's a free software. It's called Ocean Audio, and you simply play the interval and then filter it so you hear what the beats sound like. So first of all, let's just talk about the interval F and A. Each note of this interval produces different frequencies called the partial series. So above the F, we have this octave, and then the fifth, and then this major chord. All of those frequencies are happening at the same time. Same thing above the A. Octave, fifth, and the major chord. So when we play both of them together, there's a coincident partial that occurs right here. And if they are exactly the same frequency, there will be no beats. But when we tune the piano, we try to make this F to A about 7 beats per second. And when you play this interval, if it's not pure, there will be beating at that note. If you can hear it, it's a piece of cake. But can you hear that? Might not be so easy. So this is what I do. I record this, and what happens over time, the more you practice, your ear becomes a bandpass filter. So here is the bandpass filter turned off. As you get better, and your ear gets better, it starts to filter. And we're looking for that frequency, eh? Now that is the frequency that we are trying to hear. So by using Ocean Audio and understanding where the coincidental partial is, we can train our ear to better hear the beats. So for the major third, the coincidental partial is always 2 octaves above the top note. So we know where it occurs. And by using Ocean Audio, we can filter out the coincidental partial and know what it sounds like. So that's how I use Ocean Audio to help people learn how to hear the beats faster and to fast track their ear into developing. And once your ear develops, you can hear this clearly inside this. Okay, now I want to talk to you a little bit about stability. First of all, how can we test if our stability is good or not? Well, the simplest way is to use an ETD. Now, I love oral tuning. I love tuning by ear. I love teaching about it. But it doesn't mean I'm against technology. Technology has allowed me to know better how to tune pianos by ear and how to teach people as well. So the technology I'm going to use here is this program called iStrobosoft. It allows us to measure quickly pitches down to 0.1 of a cent. And our goal is to keep the pitch from changing more than 1 cent. So let's take this note for example, measure it. It's about 4.3. And then whack it 3 times hard. That's called a test blow. 3.8, so that's less than a cent. For our purposes, that string was stable. In order to have a stable string, you need to have an appropriate hammer technique. The most common hammer technique is to put your hammer at 12 o'clock Go a little bit sharp, which it already is, if we're going to use the ETD as the judge, and then go a little bit flat. I call it go sharp, ease flat. So we're going to ease this flat. That's within a cent. And now we'll do our test blow. And it dropped 3 cents. Often we're told how to get a good stability, and we're told keep the hammer at 12 o'clock, go sharp, and ease flat. Well, I just did this and it failed miserably. 3 cents is way too much. So what's going on? Why does this happen? The reason why we're told these simplistic ways of tuning is because we don't have a good model to describe what's going on when we turn the tuning pin. This model is a model I've developed that has helped people be able to choose the best hammer technique so that they get stability quickly and easily. So here's the model. First of all, we have to talk about the non-speaking length. That's the part of the string from the tuning pin to the A graph or the V bar. And that's the upper termination point. On this side of the upper termination point is the part of the string that vibrates and causes the pitch that we hear. On this side of the V bar or upper termination point or A graph is the non-speaking length. It's the part of the string that doesn't vibrate. So first of all, we have to define the non-speaking length. Now, we're going to talk about the tension in the non-speaking length. So when I take my hammer and start moving it, what's going to happen to the tension in the non-speaking length? Let's use my finger here to represent the tension in the non-speaking length. As I turn the tuning pin, the non-speaking length tension changes because the string is attached to the tuning pin. Immediately when I turn it, it changes. It goes up and down. But what about the pitch or the tension in the speaking length? Does it go up and down? Does it follow the non-speaking length? No, it does not. Why? Because there's friction at the termination point. So the friction in that A graph stops the speaking length tension from changing. So as I tighten it, nothing happens until the difference in the tension across the A graph is so great that the friction breaks and I start pulling the string across. Initially, I tighten it up and nothing happens until the tension in the non-speaking length is so high that it breaks the friction at the A graph and the string starts to slip. You see that? So in essence, we have a limit, an upper limit. An upper limit. And similarly, we have a lower limit. There's an upper limit and a lower limit where the string starts to slip. And if the string doesn't slip, there's no change in pitch. If you're going to change the pitch, you have to break the friction. Let's talk about what happens when I do a test blow. First of all, we're going to call this the tension band, which is an indication of the friction. But what happens when we do hard blows, eh? Well, what happens is the string is moving at the A graph. And when you have moving parts, the friction reduces. So that's what happens. So that's why if you leave the non-speaking length tension low or high in the band, as soon as you play a hard blow, it narrows, and now the non-speaking length tension is outside the band and the string slips. Similarly, if we did this up here, narrowing, outside, slippage. And that's what causes the string to slip. But let's talk about something else. When you play the string really hard, you can see that the string is vibrating. And that means the string is now longer than it was before. And if you make the string longer, that will increase the tension. Try to understand that. As you play a string really hard, as you play a note really hard, the tension in the speaking length increases. So not only does the friction band narrow, but the tension also rises. For that reason, if we were to believe this model of what's happening, then we have to leave the tension in the non-speaking length high in the band, like this. So that when we play it hard and it goes up and narrows, the non-speaking length tension stays within this tension band. This model works, okay? It works and it explains what's going on. One more thing I want to talk about is the unbending and the untwisting of the tuning pin. So why do people say put your hammer at 12 o'clock? It obviously does not produce stable tunings all the time because I just proved it didn't. But why do they say that? Well, what does happen is when you turn the pin also is bending side to side as you put force on the handle, okay? If I had my hammer at 3 o'clock, as I push on the handle, the pin is being bent forward. See that? And then as I pull, it's being bent backwards. So the bending is always perpendicular to the handle. So when you put your hammer at 12 o'clock, you are always having side-to-side bending that's perpendicular to the string and therefore does not affect as much the tension in the non-speaking length. That's a truth. But does that mean we want that? Well, obviously it didn't help us in this case, did it? First of all, we just want to understand that when you turn the pin, you're bending it. You're bending the pin perpendicular to the handle, okay? And then when you're done, the pin will unbend in the opposite direction, okay? So if I'm at 3 o'clock and I'm pulling, when I'm finished, the pin will bend the other way. So that's the bending during and after the tuning of the string. And the twisting happens, for this example, when I'm tightening, the twisting happens clockwise. As I'm pulling on the hammer, the pin is twisted clockwise. And when I let go, it untwists counterclockwise, okay? And the untwisting, in this case, will cause the non-speaking length tension to drop after I finish tuning the string. To understand what's going on in this case, we need to know what's happening to the non-speaking length tension while we're tuning the string and after we let go of the hammer. As you tighten the string, the non-speaking length tension is at the top of the band. As you loosen the string, the non-speaking length tension is at the bottom of the band. Now the question is, what happens after we let go of our hammer? Well, we know what we want to happen. It has to leave the non-speaking length tension high in the tension band. When you put your hammer at 12 o'clock and go sharp and ease flat, you go sharp and then you ease it flat. The last motion you're making is flattening the pitch. So the non-speaking length tension is here. Well, if you're going to have a stable tuning, you need to have the non-speaking length tension rise. After you're finished tuning, it has to rise all by itself. You can't be doing anything to the pin to get it to rise, because after you finish doing whatever you've done, the pin is going to unbend and untwist on its own and leave something else. So all by itself, it's going to rise and leave it there. It has to, or it won't be stable. And what happened in this example was it wasn't high, it was low. And then when I played it, it slipped flat. So what's happening to the pin when we let go if we're doing a 12 o'clock? Well, first of all, there's no bending that's changing the non-speaking length tension, because this is side to side. So it's all in the twist. So when we loosen, or when we go sharp and then we're easing flat, when you ease it flat, you're turning the pin counterclockwise as you ease it flat, because the string is on the right side of the pin. Okay, so here's us easing it flat. And then when we're done, the pin will untwist clockwise. We go sharp and then we ease it flat. The untwisting of the tuning pin will raise the non-speaking length tension. But in this case, not enough. Hard blow and it went flat. In order to choose the appropriate hammer technique to give you the best stability, you have to choose the hammer technique that leaves the non-speaking length tension tight in the band, okay? Another thing I want to show you, just because it's a safe way of testing your stability, these hard blows, some technicians will actually tune the whole piano like that, but they have to wear earplugs or they will lose their hearing. I personally don't like that. I use what's called a soft blow technique. It doesn't mean that I don't test my stability, I just don't use test blows. And how do I do that? Let's tune our C again by going sharp and easing it flat. We're about 0.7. So 0.7 cents sharp. Now, we could test this string by using a test blow, and we already know that the non-speaking length tension is low in the band. So when we play it really hard, the tension band is going to narrow and rise, and that's going to cause the non-speaking length tension to be outside the band, and it's going to slip and go flat. We already saw that happen. But what I like to do, because I don't like to use the test blows because they're damaging on my ears, is I use what's called the bend test. And all I do is I bend the pin towards the string slightly. That's it. Now, if I have a stable string, the non-speaking length tension is high in the band, and as I bend the tuning pin towards the string, the non-speaking length tension will drop. But because it's high in the band, it won't go outside the band, and that confirms a stable tuning. But if it's low in the band, as I bend the pin towards the string, the non-speaking length tension will lower until it goes outside the band and the string will slip. So here's this is called the bend test. This is a stable bend test, and this is an unstable bend test. The first thing happens is that the pitch drops, and as you continue to bend it, the pitch doesn't go down anymore. So let's see if that'll happen with this. I'm just going to press down on this. We get that 0.7, and as I bend down, it drops. If I bend again, it doesn't go down anymore. So that's what happened. So there you have it, the two most difficult skills to learn in order to tune a piano by ear. Hearing beats takes time, but having a way of knowing where the beats are and what they sound like can speed up that time tremendously. Getting stability requires an understanding of how the string tensions behave during the tuning and after you're done tuning, and the non-speaking tension analysis method is a very good way of understanding what happens when the string is not stable and what you can do to fix it. So if this interests you, if this is something that you're interested in and you would like to know more about it, contact me, Mark at howtotunepianos.com, or go to my website, howtotunepianos.com, and there's tons of free stuff on there that will help you understand better how to tune a piano and how to learn how to do it with the least amount of time possible. It still takes a while, but we can make it easier for you by using some of these techniques that I've developed. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.